Hey everybody, JB back with you once again, and welcome to Let's Play Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations. And boy, that title is certainly appropriate for the last few weeks. First of all, I'm really sorry for the lack of a video this past week. I meant to record this one early in the week, and life just got completely insane. It's been crazy the last 3 or so weeks, but I had to put this aside for a little while, and truth be told, it technically still kind of is still put aside. First things first, I wanted to talk about what happened with this video, why it wasn't uploaded like a couple of weeks ago, and then talk a little bit about my upload schedule while we have some background music here. So, I guess the simplest way to put this is, now that the JBLP1 Let's Play is finished, I want to upload this Let's Play twice a week. I was going to do it 3 times a week, like I was already doing, but then I realized that these episodes are getting longer than they were in the first game, and I think it's just better in terms of your ability to watch them and comfortability with keeping up with them and whatnot, that I just upload these twice a week only. And just with my schedule too, it's probably better for me as well. Life is just crazy right now, but hopefully it will calm down. I'll probably talk about it in a future video one day. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is what happened with this video, because this was a comedy of errors on so many levels. So, first thing was I recorded this video and the next one, the first part of Case 3 of this game, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it was only when I was about to record it was exporting this part for YouTube that I realized that there was no sound from my microphone at all. And that also affected the next video too. So I came to discover that my recording software had some setting in it that prevented the sound from coming in recently. I don't know why it just started doing that, but it is what it is. So I turned it to make sure that it did, and now it is working. And then, whoops, I didn't mean to hit that. And then I re-recorded this video this past week, and you remember in the last video we ended with like 2 little bars of health left? Well, I made a mistake like late into the video that I couldn't back out from, and I didn't save beforehand, which was totally my bad. And so I'd gotten long enough and I had exhausted my voice well enough that I was like, yeah, I'm not going to record this again tonight. Let's just wait to do this. And so the rest of the week kicked in and got insane, and so now it's the weekend, and now we're going to try to do this again. So hopefully 3rd time will be the charm for this video. I'm so sorry this has taken so long. You guys got to understand, not only is my life incredibly busy, but recording this Let's Play has been much more involved than I was expecting, with all the voices and just trying to make sure I remember all the solutions to the cases, which of course it doesn't happen most of the time. In fact, I've discovered that I don't remember as much of these games as I thought I did when I started the Let's Play. So that's been kind of interesting to navigate as well. But hopefully the rest of this will go pretty smoothly. So that's enough of me rambling. Let's get on with the video. So we are here in court on the final day of the trial of Ron D. White. And we are basically calling Luke Atmey back into the courtroom away from his own trial as mask to mask, because we are suspecting that he is using his supposed identity as mask to mask to give himself an alibi for the murder of Kane Bullard, the CEO of the security company. And so now we have also heard Mia's voice, I guess, at the end of the trial, and that's what we're talking with Maya about right now. My sis? I could have sworn I heard Mia's voice. So then, she's still alive. Inside your heart. Aww. Nicky boy! Oh, hey, Desiree. Oh, Miss Delight. Is it true that detective is the real killer? To be honest, we don't have any definitive proof. But he's the only one who could have done it. But wasn't he at Lordly Taylor that night? Not to mention, we don't exactly know his motive. I mean, why would Detective Atmey want to kill Kane Bullard? That's the real question, isn't it? Oops, it's almost time. Better get back to the courtroom. I need to find some solid proof. And it's gotta happen sooner rather than later. Yeah, I mean, they're pulling Luke Atmey out of his own trial, so if he's going to go back to that trial by the end of the day, we got to get done pretty quickly here.
Now then, this court is back in session. Mr. Luke Atmey, please take the stand. Well, well, how do you do, sir lawyer? I never would have thought to see you acting so recklessly.
I couldn't let them hand down your verdict just yet. Not when it would have given you your perfect alibi. An alibi by the name of Mask Damask.
I'm sorry, I'm afraid even the great Luke Atmey has no idea what you mean. Of course, I have been in the next courtroom ever since 10 o'clock this morning. I'm afraid there's no way I could know what's been going on in here. You've been in the defendant's seat all day long, correct? Being tried as Mask to Mask. Indeed, it's truly child's play to fool the ignorant masses. Not only did the poor fools ask me to protect their valuables, they even gave me a generous reward upon returning their own property to them. Take this red diamond ring that sparkles upon my defined finger, for example.
So you continue to insist that you are, in fact, Mask Damask?
Of course. Very well then, Luke Atmey. Let us begin with this simple question. On October 12th at 1 a.m., Kane Bullard was murdered. Where were you at that time? One without knowledge lacks even the knowledge that he should be ashamed of himself. But don't worry, I will not hold it against you, Sir Judge. Thanks.
Uh-oh. Alright, Mr. Atmey. The night of the murder. Speak. We're all ears.
As you wish, Sir Prosecutor.
The alibi. Alright, let's hear about this.
I was stealing the urn as Mask to Mask, just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. The time at which the camera captured Mask to Mask was the same time as the murder. It seems the main point of discussion will be this photo of the crime scene.
Everything else up until now was all part of his plan. There has to be a secret to this picture as well.
Even the great Mask to Mask cannot be in two places at once. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have a verdict to receive.
Not quite yet. Unfortunately, Mr. Atmey, we still have to do your cross-examination.
A fool is too foolish to know that he is a fool.
Have you been hanging out with Francisca? I think he's trying to say that you're full of it, Nick. The only thing that's full of it is his alibi. Alright. Now, the good thing about playing these, this segment twice already is that I know most of what the solution to everything is here. I guess that also means I'm not stumbling around, but I also can't figure it out, too. I'm trying to remember if it's this one. Let's do this. I believe Adrian Andrews hired you at one point.
That's right. That was over 20 days ago, if I'm not mistaken.
You sent the calling card to Lordly Taylor 10 days before the heist. That would mean you sent out the card after you began your security watch, correct?
Indeed. There was no reason why I couldn't do both jobs at once. It was the perfect opportunity to steal my latest target. I see. You truly are evil, aren't you? Yes, evil is what I am.
Yeah, but maybe not in the way you're saying. Hey, Nick, isn't there something odd about this? Detective Atmey was always proud of his ace detective skills, right? But if the urn was stolen from Lordly Taylor while he was the only one watching it, he'd have no way to maintain his perfect ace detective persona. You know, that's true. It is kind of odd. Yeah, but what didn't we establish before that mask to mask, like, assuming that mask to mask is Luke Atmey, the whole premise behind that was that he was playing both roles and that he could let mask to mask get away only to catch him later or something? I mean, who's to say that this wouldn't be a part of a long game like that? But Maya's right, it is kind of a bit strange. Okay. So by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct?
Indeed it is. That is it. The very thing that proves I committed the crime.
The very thing that proves you committed the crime. When you think about it, it's really odd. You say that almost as if you had this picture taken on purpose. Yeah, I mean, if we are going with the premise that he is the killer in the Kane Bullard incident, and that he wanted Mask to Mask to be an alibi, then this probably would be very good for him to set that up. He was simply caught by the very camera that he had set up. We all have days like that.
Indeed, it turned out there was no such thing as the perfect crime after all. Life is truly an ironic thing, a sad blue melody.
It looks like I'd better gather more information for now. If he's truly the killer, there's gotta be something phony in that photo. Alright, let's ask about that. About the camera that took this photograph.
Oh, come now, it's all too clear what you're thinking. Huh? You think I altered this timestamp on the photograph, don't you?
Well, I mean, didn't you have like a piece of software or something that you used to process all the pictures? I'm afraid that's impossible. The camera was set up by Lordly Taylor, and on top of that, it was Lordly Taylor's staff that printed that picture's data. Yeah, but he could have manipulated the data, right? Unfortunately for the defense, there's no way that picture could have been altered.
I see.
It looks like I'd better find something else that could be suspicious. So this alibi is false? It has to be, or he couldn't have killed Mr. Bullard at KB Security. But I'm not really spotting anything unusual. There are two possibilities. Either the mask-to-mask in the photo is a fake, or the photo itself is. You know, they could both be true in some ways. So this is one of those cases where you have to go back and press another statement after you go through, like, some of them later on, which is kind of annoying. I think this is it here. Surely even you understand by now.
Lordly Taylor provided that camera. There's no way I could have tampered with it. That means I could not have killed Kane Bullard, unless I had an accomplice.
Come on, think long and hard about that night. The basement warehouse and this picture that supposedly captures it. It's gotta be here. Isn't there something funny about this picture? Yep, there's definitely something funny about this picture.
Are you implying that this picture is a fake?
You bet I am. There's definitely something strange about this picture. We took a look around the basement warehouse that night before the theft took place. And there's something in this photo that doesn't match my memory of that night.
Very well, then let's hear what you have to say. What about this photograph do you find funny?
Well, when we went to the basement warehouse for the very first time, there was a statue located here, right? But here, there's a bunch of paint. And we spent quite a bit of time in yesterday's investigation at the end looking at this, so it's got to be important somehow. The funny part is right here.
Why, this is a blood stain. Ah, blood. Now this case is getting interesting.
Not exactly. The stain is actually pink paint.
Oh, just paint. And peach-colored at that.
From blood to peaches. The judge sure loves going on his wild tangents. The problem with this photograph is not the paint. The problem is when you consider the layout of the basement warehouse, it turns out that something that should be there is nowhere to be seen. Uh-oh, he's not happy.
Well, Mr. Wright. What is supposed to be in this picture instead of the paint stains?
Why, this, of course. The supervisor of the treasure exhibit stated the following. Well, there's a good reason for that. On the day of the crime, around noon, that golden statue just happened to arrive from the mountain training hall. I realized that the statue would be the perfect size for covering up the paint stains. That's why I put it where you first saw it. I myself was there the night the theft took place and saw the statue in that spot. If this picture was truly taken on that night, then that statue should have been there. But when I went there the day after the theft, that statue of the old bag was sitting in the corner.
Perhaps it was somehow pushed there accidentally?
Your Honor, the statue is slightly larger than yourself and quite heavy. It would take more than an accidental push to move it that distance. Ha. In that case, can you prove it? Can you give us the rhyme and reason as to why that statue was moved that night? Can you do it, Nick? Never mind who moved it. The real question is, why did they move it?
Well, Mr. Wright, I hope you are prepared with your answer. Now then, who was the one that moved the golden statue on the night of the crime?
Well, if Luke Atmey was doing security detail at Lordly Taylor, and he saw the statue, later on, maybe, then he would have had to have moved it to make everything match if that picture was taken some other time. So I'm going to present him. The one who moved the statue is none other than Luke Atmey.
Come now, Sir Lawyer. There you go again on one of your strange delusions. Mr. Wright, what basis do you have for your strange delusions?
It's very simple. The witness was the only one in the basement warehouse that night.
That is indeed very simple. However, why would I want to move a heavy golden statue?
The reason for moving the golden statue, here's where our battle really begins.
Well, Mr. Wright, what reason did the witness have to move that statue?
The reason can be found here in this photograph. Luke Atmey, you pretended to be mask to mask to create an alibi by showing you were at Lordly Taylor that night. But this photograph contains a single fatal flaw. If the statue had been there, your lie would be exposed like cheap film at a drugstore. That is why you had to move the statue.
A single fatal flaw?
Interesting theory. Please enlighten us. Just where in this picture does this lie exist? The timestamp, of course. If he did take the statue some other time and tried to make it look like it was that night, then this is what would prompt him to have to move the statue to make everything match. Naturally, the lie in this photo is the timestamp.
What do you mean?
I'll tell you exactly what I mean. On the night in question, Luke Atmey went to KB Security and murdered Kane Bullard. Therefore, it's obvious. It would have been impossible for him to have been at Lordly Taylor at this time.
But what does that have to do with the statue being moved?
Remember, if you will, Your Honor, when was this statue placed besides the warehouse door?
Well,
the statue was taken down to the warehouse on the day of the crime, and it was placed there in order to cover up the paint. Exactly. Luke Atmey had already decided on the time when he was going to kill the victim, and so, in order to create an alibi for that time, he took this picture days before the murder took place. What the? Of course, the statue hadn't yet been brought down to the basement warehouse yet.
Ah.
So, on the day of the crime, Mr. Atmey must have been quite nervous. As nervous as a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair factory, so to speak. Why? Because something that wasn't supposed to be there had been brought down and placed where it wasn't supposed to be. And that is why Luke Atmey had to move the statue on the night of the murder. He did it to make the room match with the way it had been in his photo.
Gwa! Order! Order! Mr. Atmey, is this true?
One moment, Your Honor.
Have you forgotten this? What's that? The data for the basement warehouse computer. According to this, the camera did indeed go off on the night of the crime.
It's true that the camera had been set up by the Lordly Taylor staff. However, the program used to manage that data was yours. There we go. That's what I was waiting for. That alone would have allowed you to tamper with the data. Ah! Yeah, the first time I played this segment, I had already jumped all the way to this point just because I remembered that he had the program, and I had presented the camera photo way too early. But you have to go through this whole process to get there.
Order! Order! Mr. Godot! What is the meaning of this?
Uh-oh.
Godot! I warned you about making me wait! Now put the coffee down! Now!
My 11th cup. I've promised to drink no more than 17 during a trial. And here I was thinking that drinking 2 a day was going overboard. Which means I'm still good till the last drop. Alright, easy there, Maxwell House.
However, the defense is a very good point.
A good point? So what? We are all but travelers on a road of infinite points. I wish I could get out of answering a question like that. I think he's got his points mixed up with his other points. So you say this photograph was taken ahead of time, and that the statue was moved in order to make it match. That's a very interesting idea. However, there's one point that can't be denied, which is... oh, cup number 12. That it's only a possibility. Men that are trapped by the chains of maybe can never reach their dreams.
That's very true.
No way! Don't fall for that, Your Honor. Hey, Mr. Damask.
Yes?
If there's no funny business in your actions as Master Damask, there should be no problem with your telling us your strategy. So let's hear it.
Yes, please provide this court with your testimony about your plan to steal the Sacred Urn.
Alright, the Sacred Urn heist.
I first received the request from Lordly Taylor about 20 days ago. The urn was placed in a box, and Zavari! It was then sent to the warehouse. Hence, I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand. I then handled security by myself to ensure that my crime would go smoothly. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 a.m. on October 12th.
That's pretty much all stuff we've heard before, isn't it? Yeah, but we will find the truth hidden in the nuggets of new information he gave.
Witness, you're sure there are no mistakes this time? Zavari. Very well then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
Alright, this is a tricky one, and I couldn't really figure this out on my own. But what you're supposed to notice here is a little detail from something we've had for a while that hasn't really been relevant yet, and that is the calling card that mentions the Speckled Urn. And if you look at the exhibit poster, there are no speckles yet, aka the paint that got on it from Adrian. So, if he knows that, or if he doesn't know anything about the urn and he couldn't have handled it until the day of the crime, then this calling card really can't be true, unless Master Mask saw the urn beforehand. Mr. Atmey, if you really are Master Mask, then you also wrote this calling card, correct?
But of course.
Is there a problem with that calling card? Allow me to read a passage from the calling card that Master Mask had written. Let's turn to Calling Card Chapter 4, Verse 3. Take good care of the Speckled Urn. Now, the speckled here surely refers to the pink pattern on the Sacred Urn.
Yes, that is true. But so what?
Truth be told, there's no way that Mask could have known about this pattern.
What do you mean?
This pink spotted pattern on the urn is actually nothing more than paint stains.
Paint stains?
And these stains did not appear until after the urn had been taken to Lordly Taylor. Oh, cup number 13. I'm not finding this joke to be very funny, Mr. Trite. The day that the Sacred Urn was taken to the warehouse, the urn was broken due to human error, or should I say an error-prone human. Aw, poor Adrian. And that's when the pink paint got on the urn.
Erg, you can't be serious.
And yet this calling card clearly mentions the paint pattern. Which means Detective Atmey had seen this urn long before the crime ever took place. In fact, he saw it when this fake photo was taken. Pooh! And because this photo is a fake, your alibi for the night of the murder no longer holds water. That sounds like a Mario Kart 64 scream.
Witness, do you have anything to say for yourself?
Grr, Alright, that did it. He's broken. Nick, I think it's still a little early for victory pose. Huh? Cup number 14. Ha. It's so sad. No one has any conviction these days.
Conviction, you say?
Yesterday, we all decided unanimously that this man was Masked to Mask. And now, we're calling him a murderer. You don't think we're being a tad fickle?
Well, that's a good point.
No way! Don't fall for that too, Your Honor. You say that Luke Atmey was the one who killed Kane Bullard? Then let me ask you this. Why would he do that?
An excellent point. Motive, Mr. Wright, motive! Might you my merry murderous motive manifest?
Nice alliteration. Nick, he's getting his second win.
If he prepared an alibi and pinned his crime on Rhonda Light, as you say, he must have had a very strong motive for murder.
The only one with any motive we've seen is Rhonda Light. Isn't that right, Detective?
Indeed. According to my own research, the boy's motive is clear. Without a motive, it's nearly impossible to prove guilt in a murder case. Now then, maybe you can enlighten us as to what the defendant's motives were. I'd be honored to, Sir Oldtimer.
Sir Oldtimer? They're doing everything they can to make Ron look suspicious. Despite our lack of hard information, this may be our only chance. Okay. Motive for murder.
I, Luke Atmey, had no points of contact with the victim whatsoever. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Mask to Mask and simply mistook who he was. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron Delight. And it was again Mr. Bullard who harbored a grudge against Mr. Delight for his betrayal. Mr. Bullard's mistake is quite excusable. The defendant truly believes he is Mask to Mask. That is why Mr. Delight saw it fit to kill Kane Bullard. Truly a tragedy. So the victim, Kane Bullard, blackmailed the defendant?
This is the blackmail letter found in the defendant's apartment. A handwriting test confirms that Mr. Bullard was indeed the one who wrote the letter. What? Blackmail letter updated in the court record. Found in Ron Delight's room, written by Bullard. Okay, so that's interesting information.
Very well, Mr. Wright. Begin your cross-examination.
So, this is a bit tricky, but what you have to figure out here is that the fact that we got this new piece of information about this letter written by Bullard doesn't quite match the fact that Ron Delight had been getting something from somebody asking him to steal the crime with all these plans. Now, you could say that that might be also Kane Bullard, but there's something here that's rather interesting that suggests that maybe this letter is different from the ones that Ron had been receiving. And that is the fact that it mentions a red diamond, and if we were to believe that this was the initial letter that Ron got, which we had been suspecting, then it can't have been, considering... Where is it? Not that one. This one. That the thing that Mask to Mask first stole was the blue gem called the Tear of Emanon. So this had to have been written to somebody else. Maybe somebody else wearing a red diamond? Take a good look at this newspaper clipping. It contains a picture of the Tear of Emanon, the stolen jewel. I wish real-life newspapers had, like, colored headlines like that. That's pretty cool.
What about it?
The problem is this jewel's color. Color? I'm not much for discussing color myself. According to the clipping, the color of the stolen jewel was blue. However, in the blackmail letter, a totally different jewel is mentioned. I'll take that red diamond you received the other day.
Red?
Which means, the red diamond described in the blackmail letter is not the Tear of Emanon that Mask to Mask stole at all. And your point is, Mr. Trite? So you were trying to say that this blackmail letter was intended for someone else. That is what you're trying to say, right, Trite?
That is what you're trying to say, right, Mr. Wright?
Well, that is what you're trying to say, right, Nick? Yes. This is who Kane Bullard was actually blackmailing. Well, if we're going to go with the theory that it is the person wearing the diamond, naturally, it was you, Detective Atmey.
Do you have some sort of basis for that claim?
You have been personally involved in every single Mask to Mask case. And in the last case, you recovered what was stolen, and received a jewel as your reward. A jewel? Probably the one wrapped conspicuously around your finger. That red diamond ring.
Grr.
That is the diamond referred to in the letter. Which means that Kane Bullard wrote that letter in order to blackmail you!
Ah! Order! Order in the court! Order, I say!
Oh, Cup 15. It seems you've gone too far with your childish pranks, Mr. Trite. Uh-oh. I don't like the way he said that. Kane Bullard blackmailing Luke Atmey? Are you for real? Yes, I am. Nick, come on, stand up to him! Then answer me this. The blackmail letter contains the following passage. If you don't want your identity revealed to the world.
Yes, it certainly does.
Kane Bullard threatened to make Luke Atmey's identity public knowledge. An identity he wanted to keep a secret. So just what was that identity? That is a good question. Atmey killed Kane Bullard because he was afraid of his secret becoming known. What was the identity he wanted to keep secret? This is what it all comes down to, Nick. The identity that Luke Atmey wanted to so desperately keep secret was his identity as... It almost has to be a blackmailer because we have yet to identify the person who has been blackmailing Ron Delight. And if we are going with the theory that it was a different person who wrote... that Kane Bullard wrote the letter to, or Kane Bullard was different than this other person, then it has to be Luke Atmey who's been blackmailing Ron Delight. Luke Atmey was a blackmailer. Hey now, isn't that a little different from what you've been saying? You said that Kane Board was the one blackmailing Luke Atmey. Are you saying that Atmey was blackmailing someone else on top of that? Yep. Oh, you have to admit, that does sound a little odd. It's not odd. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Kane Board was blackmailing Luke Atmey. But Ron Delight was also being blackmailed by a certain someone. So, did you start receiving blackmail letters after this incident? Yes. Just a few days after the Tear of Emanon heist. After that, I started getting the plans in the mail. I received plans from some very kind person. Incredibly detailed plans.
Detailed plans? In which case, that would mean that Ron Delight was actually mask to mask.
That is what we are claiming. Someone else came up with the plans and had Mr. Delight steal his targets for him. And that someone was none other than Luke Atmey.
Shh! Silence! He. Now I see. It's all becoming clear.
What is?
When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Careless, with the tendency to jump to conclusions. Am I wrong? How did you? You say that I, Luke Atmey, was blackmailing Ron Delight? In which case I would naturally know all about his relation to Mask.
Well, yes. Whoops, the window got unfocused again.
Ron Delight started receiving plans from his second crime onward, correct? Which means I learned of his identity when he committed that first crime. Good point. You certainly couldn't have blackmailed him otherwise.
Oh, cup number 16. In that case, let's see some hot, bitter evidence. During the first crime, how did Luke Atmey know that Ron Delight was mask to mask? Well, they were in the same photo together right here. And he could have easily found the costume in the trash like Ron mentioned that he threw it away in. I think I see it.
See what?
When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Gets into lots of mischief trying to be the center of attention.
What do you mean?
This newspaper clipping. It has a picture of you and Ron Delight in his guard uniform. It seems that Mask to Mask didn't just disappear into thin air. He just took off his outfit and hid it in a bucket.
That sounds far too stupid to be true.
Correct. With tricks like that, he couldn't fool a baby, let alone an ace detective. And that's when you figured it out, Mr. Atmey. That's when you learned that under his mask, Mask to Mask was really Ron Delight.
What the? Wasn't he supposed to be Mask to Mask? Not only that, it looks like he wasn't even an ace detective.
I can't believe it! He was just a slimy blackmailer!
What a fraud! Trying to pass himself off as an ace detective? Why you! How dare you expose me like that? Why I never blackmailed anyone in my life! I'm a famous and proud ace detective and also Mask to Mask! Why can't you understand that?
I'm afraid you are neither a proud thief nor an ace detective. You're a blackmailer and a murderer. That is your true identity.
Why you? How dare you even dare imply that one so smart and capable as I could ever fall to such lowly doubts? Why not try doing something yourselves with those big mouth of yours? You're real fools I say. None of you can compare to my genius. You're really just jealous. So go on, decorate me, commemorate me. There is nothing a great ace detective cannot handle. Blackmail, murder, threats, I'll get away with all of it. Is enough to make one laugh.
Wow, that was a very Wendy Oldbag rant there.
It would seem we finally arrived at the real answer.
That was quite a performance by Mr. Atmey.
Bailiff, please prepare a cell for Mr. Atmey.
Alright, is this 17? Or did I overcount? The hammer that strikes too fast has no time to aim.
What do you mean? I'm already prepared to deliver my ruling.
Allow me to say one thing. I will be the one to judge. I feel like you shouldn't be talking to a judge like that. Yeah. You don't get much more in your face than that. It appears their claws weren't quite sharp enough, Mr. Trite. What do you mean? It's true that you've proven a lot of things. Things like Luke Atmey was a filthy blackmailer. And that he wasn't at Lordly Taylor the night of the murder. That's right. That's why he's the one who killed Mr. Bull. But there's still one thing you have yet to prove.
What's that?
Just because he wasn't at the warehouse doesn't mean he was at the murder scene. Therefore, if you can't prove that this pitiful excuse for a man was a KB security, then I don't see how a verdict can be delivered.
No. No way! Order! Order in the court!
This is it. This is the final round. I've got to prove that Atmey was at Mr. Bullard's office that night. But can you really prove that? That's long enough. Mr. Trite, I want to hear your answer. That night, Luke Atmey was a KB security, and the defense... Okay, so this is where I messed up the last time I recorded this, because you see how there's no health bar thing here? I thought either answer would work, and the right answer is that you can't prove it, but I thought we would get like a funny kind of thing where if we said can prove it, we would have to just auto default to, you know, that path anyway. But it turns out, when you say can prove it, the judge forces you into giving evidence, and I don't have any health left to spare, so... And I didn't find a way to get out of the evidence presentation interface. So maybe there's a way I'm not aware of, but at that point, like, I couldn't go back without starting all over again, which is why I'm recording this a third time. I can't prove it.
Just as I thought.
But if we hear more of Detective Atmey's testimony... Unfortunately, that's as far as you go, Mr. Trite. What do you mean? I won't allow for any more testimony. That's what I mean. What? Have you forgotten? Luke Atmey is here after we interrupted his own trial, and you have failed to prove that he committed the murder. I think it's time for this witness to return to his own trial, and face his guilty verdict as mask to mask. No.
Well now, Sir Lawyer, it seems that love wins out in the end after all.
Love?
I am the ace detective as well as mask to mask. My verdict will verify that. Just as Ron Delights will verify that he is the true murderer. I declare that with the full force of my ace detectiveness.
Your ace detectiveness, huh?
Order! Order in the court! That's enough deliberation over this witness.
I can't believe this. At this rate, Ron is... Don't give up now, Nick. We still have tomorrow. We can look for more evidence, and by then it will be too late. Huh? Why? Double Jeopardy, I'm assuming? Yep, Double Jeopardy. One of the basic rules of any court of law. Double Jeopardy?
Should a defendant be tried and found innocent in court, the defendant cannot be tried again for the same crime. This is a fundamental rule of all courts, and it applies to this witness as much as it applies to anyone else.
Mr. Atmey will be found guilty in a matter of minutes. Guilty as mask to mask. Which means...
he will be innocent as far as the murder of King Bullard is concerned.
No way.
The fact that you were unable to prove Mr. Atmey's guilt of that crime here means that he will never again be tried as King Bullard's murderer. Wah!
Now there's nothing I can possibly do to win. Even if Ron is proclaimed to be innocent, the real killer, Luke Atmey, will go free.
You have cross-examined every statement the witness has made here today. And as long as there is no more testimony, I'm afraid I have to declare that there will be no further questioning of this witness. Are there any objections? Then I hereby end the cross-examination of Luke Atmey.
I think I see it. Your Honor, when you were a child, this is what was on your report card every year. Has poor hearing and often makes mistakes as a result.
How did you?
Phoenix, raise your head up high. Have you forgotten what I used to tell you? A lawyer is someone who smiles, no matter how bad it gets. That voice. No way! Mia! Long time no see, Phoenix. Mia! This is the true power of the Crime channeling technique. I know that it's not really that it is really Maya who's standing before me, but right now she's my mentor, Mia Fey. I guess they're explaining this in case you didn't play the last two games. Now, let's do this. But there's nothing more we can do, Mia. Without any more testimony, I can't cross-examine. Not yet. The testimony's not over yet. What do you mean? Your Honor, just now you said something very interesting. You have cross-examined every statement the witness has made here today.
Yes, that's true, but...
Unfortunately, Your Honor, you're forgetting something. Earlier, after the last cross-examination, this witness made a number of remarks.
Well now, Sir Lawyer, it seems that love wins out in the end after all. I am the ace detective as well as Mask to Mask. My verdict will verify that. Just as Ron Delights will verify that he is the true murderer. I declare that with the full force of my ace detectiveness. Yes, but these comments appear to have no importance whatsoever.
Very well, then we shall prove their importance via cross-examination. At any rate, as long as the witness has made these remarks, we, the defense, assert our right to question them. Is that all right with you, prosecutor?
Is something the matter, Mr. Godot?
Ah, nothing. It seemed like something was the matter there.
Oh, Sir Lawyer, it looks like you're one step too late. If you think such falsehoods would do...
Oh wait, did I skip something there?
If you think such falsehoods would do anything to me, look at...
Let's hear it.
Huh?
It's true that the witness made some remarks. So then, let's hear this last bit of cross-examination.
Mr. Godot, what are you... Very well then, Mr. Look Atmey. I'm going to allow the defense to cross-examine your earlier remarks.
The defense would like to hear why you declared the defendant to be the true murderer.
So please, give us one last bit of testimony.
Phoenix, this is it. This is our absolute last chance. Yes, Chief. The last testimony.
Indeed, it is true that I was not at Lordly Taylor. I had to leave to see about another vitally important job request. I knowed about the date beforehand, so I had this photograph readied. My brilliant deduction was what informed me that the true culprit was Ron Delight. And thanks to the keycard and wallet, it was abundantly clear that he was there. I was also able to make a deduction from the buzzer, which only sounded once. The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? The victim would have left prints if he sounded it, which means the killer sounded it. Mr. Delight was wearing his mask-to-mask outfit, which is why he left no prints. And the blackmail letter. The victim likely just mistook the color of the jewel. Zavari! Therefore, all the evidence points to that poor boy.
That was a lot. His testimony actually seems to hold up pretty well.
The witness's earlier remarks do not appear to have been hastily prepared. All of his points have been explained, and none of them seem to contradict anything. But of course. But how did you know about the emergency buzzer? The police investigation documents went directly through me. and I always look over the documents. It's elementary, sir lawyer. Grr.
Are you going to make even more trouble for us now, sir lawyer?
I will not allow any of your usual shenanigans, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor.
We cannot postpone Luke Atmey's trial any longer. This is your last chance.
Hang on a sec. Just one chance? Ha. It seems that the party's about to begin. Well, Phoenix, there isn't any evidence that contradicts with that testimony. So it would seem. What do you mean, so it would seem? Listen, Phoenix. Pointing out contradictions doesn't always mean you have to present evidence, does it? At any rate, this is our last chance. If you can't point out a case-breaking contradiction, you lose. That's all there is to it. Cup number 17. The last cup. So did I overcount earlier? Because I feel like this is 18. If we were supposed to count all the way up. I probably skipped a number. It seems that like the time has come to put an end to this trial. I have to find a fatal contradiction in this testimony, and I need to point it out without presenting evidence. Which means all I can do is find the contradictory remark and press it. Remember, you only get one chance.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. Please begin your final cross-examination.
Alright, so as the game has repeatedly told us over the last few minutes, you only get one chance to press something here. And what you have to figure out is that it's this statement where he mentions Mr. Delight wearing his mask-to-mask outfit. This is not something that we discovered until just earlier in the day, but Luke Atmey would have been in the other trial by that point. So how would he actually know this? Mr. Atmey, about this last remark. You still don't get it, do you, Trite? This isn't the time to be pressing the witness on every little statement. But I'm not pressing the witness on every little statement, just this one. I'm afraid you're the one who still doesn't get it, Mr. Godot.
What?
Mr. Atmey, it seems you have finally admitted that you were in the CEO's office on the night of the murder.
How could you say that?
Let's review your testimony, shall we, Mr. Atmey? The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? Mr. Delight was wearing his mask-to-mask outfit. Is that correct?
Indeed. That's what I said. My deductions are absolutely foolproof.
More like your deductions prove that you're a fool.
Ooh. I'm sorry. Whatever do you mean?
For some reason, I'm starting to get really thirsty. When exactly did we learn the fact that Ron Delight was dressed as mask-to-mask when he went to the scene of the crime?
That was,
It was just a few hours ago. Back when my sixth cup was looking at me with a cold stare. Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. That's right, the defendant had yet to tell anyone else this fact before this morning. Therefore, the only people who should know this are those who have been watching this trial.
Grr.
Do you understand now, Detective Atmey? There's no way that you should have known about that.
Aye!
You were in the next courtroom being tried as mask-to-mask. So then enlighten us. Just how did you know about that piece of information? Well... Come on, this detective must have known about it. He probably had plenty of chances to find out beforehand. And it's those chances that I want to discuss next. That night, Mr. Delight was wearing his mask-to-mask outfit. There's one and only one way for Detective Atmey to have found that out. Only one way, you say? Please recall, if you will, Mr. Delight's testimony. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. For a second, my client witnessed the real killer. But Mr. Delight never saw his attacker, so there's no way to tell whether or not the real killer was Luke Atmey. It's with that statement that I'll turn this case on its head. I think it's the other way around, like Phoenix is implying here. I think it's the only way that we can identify who the killer is. It's just, what are you implying? Mr. Delight saw the real killer, correct? Now, if you turn that statement around, it stands to reason that the real killer had also seen Ron Delight. Exactly. Impossible. Yeah, they weren't even trying with that silhouette. Like, when we saw that in yesterday's investigation, I was like, that looks exactly like the normal Luke Atmey pose. Detective Atmey, you saw Mask to Mask at the murder scene that night. You saw him when you killed Kane Bullard and assaulted Ron Delight. That was the only way you could have known what Ron was wearing. Uh-oh. I sense an eruption about to happen.
Hee-yaw-wee! Take a good look, everyone! Unable to find a rival worthy of my genius, I was forced to create one by myself. Here I am, the tragic clown.
Didn't you say that yesterday?
That's the same line you gave yesterday.
But I think there's a little more meaning behind it this time.
Hee-yaw-wee-yaw-wee! What an awfully complicated incident. Kane Bullard was blackmailing Luke Atmey, who was in turn blackmailing Ron Delight. And upon killing his blackmailer, Luke Atmey tried to frame Ron Delight. He then claimed to be guilty as Mask to Mask in order to escape his true crime.
And to that end, he came up with this plan. To use the double Jeopardy rule when making his alibi. At any rate,
it would seem we finally found the truth.
Excuse me.
I came perilously close to besmirching the record of an innocent young man. Besmirching him with the title of murderer.
Don't ignore me!
Oh, I didn't realize you were there.
Why wouldn't he be? About the verdict.
I know. You never committed any murder.
And I guess thanks to the double Jeopardy rule, he's not going to be tried as Mask to Mask now, right? That's right. I'm so glad you understand that. But I really am Mask to Mask.
Huh?
So thanks to that trial yesterday, I'm innocent now, right? What was it you said? Double Jeopardy?
Now you mention it.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be tried for that again. I've been careless. Careless? What do you think, Mia? As the defendant says, the rule of double jeopardy is absolute. A defendant can never be tried twice for a crime in which he was once found innocent. Then, Mask to Mask is really innocent? It would seem so. For now. For now.
Now then, this court finds the defendant
not guilty. For real this time. Yay! More confetti. Woo. Boy, this is really lucky. Wait, this isn't so good after all. You see, the thing is, I still have Mask to Mask after all. You did it, Phoenix! Thanks, Mia. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Yeah, it's because Maya doesn't call me much these days. Oh? I'm just joking, Phoenix. Don't take everything so seriously. But on the other hand, Maya, she seems kind of torn these days. You mean about becoming the master of the Kurian channeling school? Becoming the master means saying goodbye to our mother. Misty Faye, right? Watch over her, will you, Phoenix? Of course. Well then, see you around. Aw. Bye, Mia. Mia. Mr. Wright. I don't know what to say. Congratulations, Mr. Delight. Thank you so much. No, wait. Nothing really matters anymore, though, now that all of this has happened. Come on, just be happy already. Maya, you've been cleared of the murder charges and got off as Mask to Mask to boot. But in exchange, I lost everything. Huh? What do you mean? Stealing security information from KB Security, becoming mask to mask. I did it all for one reason. For her. You mean your wife, Desiree? She hates criminals more than anything. Come to think of it, she was once held hostage by some robbers, wasn't she? She always said how she hated sneaky criminals. I knew that, but once I got fired from KB Security and lost all the money I had, she wouldn't have any reason to stay with me. I thought she would leave me for sure. So that's why you became mask to mask. Yes, but it's all over now. A broken bowl can never be put back together. That's not true, right, Nick? Right. Really? Can we go back to the way things were? You'll be fine, and Nick can prove it. I can? I kinda wish you would check with me first. Mr. Delight, even if a bowl is broken, there's always a way to put it back together. Yeah, just like this bowl. The Sacred Urn. Desi was the one who found this. Desiree, your wife. She's always believed in you, Ron. That's why you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about anything. Ah, there you are! Miss Delight. You did it, Ronnie! You're innocent! I'm so happy! Thank you. I appreciate that. But, I suppose you don't want anything more to do with me, do you? Ronnie, why didn't you talk to me about what was going on? I had no idea you'd quit KB Security. I never imagined that you were really mask to mask either. Miss Delight, what are you going to do now that you know? You're not going to really leave him, are you? Come on, it's obvious, isn't it? How could I ever let a wonderful man like him get away? After all, my bike's really fast. So fast that there's no way he could ever get away. Uh-oh. But didn't you say that you hated criminals? Oh, I only hate people who act all cowardly and sneaky. Like that detective. I see. My Ronnie went and declared his crimes before he committed them, like a man. I just love a man who's so chivalrous. Chivalrous? Yeah, I don't know if that's the word for that. I knew I was right about you. Every day I spend with you is filled with thrills and excitement. Desiree, you really do love Ron, don't you? Aw. Nicky boy. Yes? I'm really glad I asked you to defend my Ronnie. Thank you so much. I'll never forget what you've done for us. Oh, well, take care of yourself. You too, Nicky boy. Gulp. I could feel my face going red. Mr. Nick! Mr. Maya! Congratulations! Uh-oh. That is not the time to be walking in, Pearl. Gasp! Talk about bad timing. Uh-oh, I don't like that look on her face. Mr. Nick! How could you? With another man's wife! In front of Mr. Maya! No, 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 you got it all wrong! I'll never forgive you! Never, ever! Man, forget Will Smith. Pearl knows how to slap someone like crazy. So just as the case came to a close, so too did my consciousness. Ron said a broken bowl can never be put back together. But I know that's not true. I mean, just look. Aww. Here's a perfect example of one that was put back together even better than before. That's cute. I like that. The end. We finally made it to the end of this case. Woo! It feels like this last episode took forever to finally upload. So I'm really glad it's over and we can move on to the next case, which is called Recipe for Turnabout. And you can see right here it's already been recorded here because I saved this during the recording. But we're going to do that next time. So until then, thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. So take care and catch you next.